Hi, and welcome to episode 89 of the Pet Behaviour Chat. And today we've got a kitty cat focused episode. And of course, because of that, I have the wonderful Nora with me again today. And it's quite a topical topic that we're talking about today because it is the 1st of July. So 1st of July is the date that the episode actually goes out. And we've been getting increasingly more inquiries from our clients at the clinic in Abu Dhabi regarding holidays. A lot of people are already on holiday. The summer is very much upon us. And we've had a lot of inquiries actually this summer about what is better or what is the best option for cats when people travel, whether that is for the cats to stay in their homes and be cared for in their homes, or whether it's to come to a boarding facility or a cattery. And Nora is obviously extremely well versed in all of these things. She's based at the clinic. She speaks to a lot of clients, a lot of cat owners and cat caregivers about exactly this. So I thought we could have a real cool conversation about this. So welcome, Nora. Lovely to have you here again.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Cool. So tell me, what have been like the common questions this summer? What have cat caregivers been worried about in terms of making the right choices for their cats over the holidays?
I mean, I think we're in a really unique place in that people travel a lot. So the expat population here in the UAE obviously make plans during the summer to go home, see their family. It's also increasingly easily available to travel all over the region. So we see people coming and going quite a bit. And of course, when they have cats in their family, they are wondering what's the best thing to do with them. We do have some clients, and this is becoming more popular of a choice, I would say, asking, can they take their cats with them? I think it's a very frequently talked about topic right now in air travel, the whole idea of cats traveling in cabin with you. And that makes things feel a little bit easy and accessible for pet owners who are going to miss their cats. And they do ask if it is reasonable for them to bring the cats in cabin, go on holidays, and then bring them back with them. So that's something a bit new that's coming up. And I guess second to that is just the usual, frequent trips, or again, in this region, a lot of people look to escape the heat for a full 2 months. And it's these long extended trips away, and they're not sure what is better, to keep their cat in a boarding facility where they can be looked after by professionals, but they're going to lose the things like space and their own environment, or should they keep them at home? And if they keep them in home, who's an appropriate person to look after them? So it's really that. It's like, if I board my cat, where should I? And again, that other question about, can I just take my cat on holiday with me, which in theory sounds like, a great dream that all cat owners would have. But I think it's really important. We always speak to owners about what their cat would want on that holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously this podcast is focused on behavior. So that's where we're going to go with this, because obviously there are a million other things to consider, such as, do we even have somebody suitable to come into the home that the caregiver trusts? What are the financial implications? Like, there are so many things that go into this equation. But if we're focusing purely on feline behavior, which is kind of the topic of this podcast, then what would your recommendation be in regards to that sort of home territory versus cats having to leave that space?
So I would always advise that the best place for the cats to be is at home, even for these extended trips away, providing we can find them suitable care. Really, we know that cats are very much attached to their territory, and being able to actively defend their territory is extremely important to them. So to be removed from that can be stressful for them. And that is sometimes the only option, in which case we do have to work a little bit harder to keep their stress levels down and to help replicate as many things from home as we can. But I believe ultimately, and for my cats as well, that home is the best place for them to be, even if I'm not there.
Yeah. And I think I'd agree with that. I think as long as there is a way to care for them in the home that's safe and appropriate, and that there's enough care there, I would probably agree with that. And we do the same with our cat. Luckily, we have a wonderful person that comes into the home and actually stays at home with them. I know not everybody has perhaps the luxury of that, but I think it's also about routines. We know how, not just cats, but dogs as well, and us potentially, you know, routine can be such an important and stabilizing thing. And I think for cats, you know, that's especially so. And I think disrupting routines is another thing that comes into that whole equation, because at a cattery, there's going to be, to some extent, a set routine, and that might not be according to the cat's natural routine and what they would want to do.
Yeah, and I think another aspect about a boarding facility is inevitably your cat is going to have to experience the smells and sounds of other cats, and that can be extremely stressful for them to be unknown cats in their environment. So we have definitely had patients and continue to have patients that the owners are very concerned, because bringing somebody into their home isn't a possibility, but also they will say things like, my cat absolutely cannot be around other cats. And that's really where you have to start thinking about how we can meet their behavioral needs and understand that this particular cat is absolutely a solitary creature, and that it can really be detrimental to their emotional health being near other cats.
Yeah, that's that whole cat sociability piece, which is so complex. And you know, there will be some cats that would be able to cope with or tolerate having unfamiliar cats nearby in the same space, but then there are those other cats that just absolutely can't tolerate that. And I agree, that potentially would cause such a massive, or have such a massive negative impact on their mental and emotional health, that I wonder whether that would be the best thing for some of those cats.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if a cat is staying in their home environment, it's important to get to know the person who'll be able to come in soon. So it's not just that the cat stays in their environment, but that they are keeping up somewhat familiar routines, that you're spending that time really educating the caregiver who's coming in, and that they're able to actually observe the cat, because we know, I mean, definitely lots of cats who suffer from any sort of issues with stress. It can affect their medical health too, and that's going to be of a big concern when the owners are away. So really, if you do choose to keep your cat at home, which is the ideal scenario, you still have to invest quite a bit of time and energy into making sure that that caregiver is able to provide not just the food and water, but also keep an eye over their behavioral health.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. So what about if staying in the home just simply isn't an option? Either, you know, there's nobody to come in and take care of them, or, you know, maybe the cat owner doesn't feel comfortable with that. Or, as we have it a lot actually in our clinic, we have a cat that has maybe a chronic disease such as diabetes or chronic kidney disease, and where the owners would prefer them to be under the supervision of a professional team, a veterinary team. And obviously we have this amazing, beautiful cat boarding facility, Cattery, at my clinic. What are some of the things that we do, both within the hospital as well as in the clinic, to try and replicate that home from home sort of feeling?
Sure. So I think that it's a great idea, if your cat does have any medical issues, to look at boarding them at a veterinary facility. It definitely want to make sure that you have professionals close by who can monitor. We see regularly like diabetic cats with chronic kidney failure who come and board with us, just so we can make sure that their health is top priority. We have a few things. So actually we have one amazing client who taught us a lot, I think, about how to replicate the home environment. And she loves her kitty so much. And she comes actually 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours before check-in day. And she will do basically a 2-stage setup of the room. So she'll bring many items from home. We encourage that. So we do use artificial facial pheromones here for cats, but it's always great to be able to bring some from home. So she will spend a few days at home using a sock to rub her cat's cheeks when she's very happy and relaxed. She will then bring that sock here to the clinic, rub it all over the inside of the boarding unit. She will bring her favorite scratching post, which has already been marked by her. She'll bring as many familiar things as possible, set up her unit so it already has her smells, her items in there. Then she will come with the cat. So this is done over a 1 or 2 day period where it's able to smell a bit more like home. We know how important smell is for cats. And that's something that not all owners maybe have the time to do in the same level as she does, but we definitely alert everybody before they're coming to bring items from home. We provide blankets and beds and bowls and everything like that, but we definitely prefer if the owner is able to bring some home comforts with them. We have cats, and I just think this is cute from like the intention point of view, but we have had owners bring pictures of themselves and tape them up inside of the boarding units too, which I don't know if the cat so much gets it as we do, but I think the intention is there, and I believe we can all feel that. And yeah, bringing as many items from bringing bowls from home, however the cat is normally eating, that can definitely be something that can help your cat settle in. We're big advocates here on puzzle feeders and, not necessarily having bowls. However, what is familiar and what is the cat's preference is very important when we're taking them out of their home environment, putting them in an unfamiliar place. So we want to make sure to use as many of the same things as possible. With this one particular cat's owner, it even comes down to bottled water, that the same brand of bottled water is brought in. And I mean, I just love that. I think she has gone to the ends of the earth to make sure that she's replicating the home environment as much as possible here for her cat. So yeah, I think we've all learned a lot from her, and that's something that we're able to pass on to our clients. Things like brushes, a t-shirt worn by the owner, maybe for a couple of nights sleeping before they come in and it hasn't been washed. That's great. That's perfect. We even for long-term stays ask them to do that with a number of pieces of clothing and to put them in sealed bags so that we're able to offer them fresh smells from home. It helps the cats to feel like they've got a little bit more of their own territory there where they are, and they're not kind of starting with a blank canvas. So I think that is, a big help.
Yeah. And I love, there were two things in there that I really love. So the first one is the importance of the cat's sense of smell. I think that's something that we, like you said, Nora, it's not something that we commonly think about in cats. Like, I think we're all very aware that dogs have this incredible sense of smell, but we don't think about it so much when we think about cats. And actually smell and communication via pheromones is so important to cats. And so I think that whole piece about smell and scent, whether that's bringing items from home, maybe a blanket that the cat loves lying on. And like you say, especially when they're calm and relaxed, because potentially the pheromones emitted during stress are different to those emitted during a calm and relaxed mood. So that is all great. And yeah, I love that, idea about rubbing the sock to have like this real fresh pheromone scent, but also things that we can do with artificial pheromones. And you mentioned, we have plugins of Feline in the Cattery, and we also use the spray if it's appropriate. Obviously with the spray, you always have to be really mindful that you spray perhaps the Cattery sweet, and then you have to wait 10-15 minutes for that alcohol base to dissipate before the cat goes in. So I think that sense of smell is just something, and it's not that difficult, if we think about it. And that's something I'll also talk to clients who relocate to a different country where their cat goes through air travel, making sure that they put some of those items in sealed plastic bags, take them out the other end to have that cat's familiar smell there. Cats are so clued in to smell when it comes to safety in their environment as well. So their own scent allows them to feel safe in that space. So I think that's another really important thing, that safety piece. So yeah, I think that was the first thing. And then the second thing is that what you mentioned about resources, right? Familiarity. And I just wanted to go one step further there and say litter boxes. And we do this for some of our hospital patients as well when they come in for a long time, is asking, what kind of litter box does the cat really love? Is it covered? Is it open? Is there a specific type of substrate, litter that they really love? If they normally toilet outside, is that something that we can replicate inside by bringing sand into the litter box? So I think that's another really big piece, is that litter box piece, because we all know how important the toilet is to cats. Yeah. So have you got any more thoughts about the resources and especially litter boxes and things like that?
I mean, definitely. We like to be able to replicate, we like to be able to provide all the 5 feline pillars in each boarding experience. So we make sure, that they do have safe spaces, that they do have multiple and separate resources. It can be a little bit hard to give them quite as many as they would have at home, but because our boarding units here anyways are on 3 different levels, we are able to give them a couple extras, paying special attention, I think, to cats that have been identified as needing that, or been identified as being perhaps a little bit stressed when they first arrive. The safe spaces, I mean, for me, the carrier that the cat comes in is such an ideal thing to be able to place in the boarding unit. So that's obviously going to smell like home. It's going to smell like them. And it's, easy to just allow the cat to have the choice themselves to come out, and when it's time to explore, to remove them from their carrier and then put them in this unit that's been prepared for them, sometimes with fresh bedding, can be a little bit overwhelming. So actually just putting them in quietly, opening the door or taking the door off and letting them come out, and then that becomes their bed while they're here, their safe space, their hiding space, is really nice to be able to do. Definitely litter trays. And I think that, it's like my number one tip to everybody, no matter what the behavioral challenge they have, is first question is probably, how many litter boxes do you have? So to be able to provide ample littering opportunities, we like to use huge litter trays here. That's, the first line we would have for cats in boarding. However, if we have identified cats that are maybe not using their litter tray, then we would look to give them 2 litter trays on different levels, or even putting them into a room where they have a number of litter trays that they can choose from, and free access, so that they're not always in this unit. I think because we're a clinic that's obviously very, very highly attuned to behavioral needs, we've created these luxuries for ourselves in making sure that things like this are a priority. And I know that is not something that everybody would, be able to have at that same level. But I do think that, giving those couple of different options of the litters, even to the basics of just keeping them immaculately clean, is really important. And that's something that any clinic, any boarding facility can keep on top of, and is going to definitely be of benefit to the cat staying there, is to have really, really good protocols for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit, I think the aim of this podcast episode is, for anybody who is a cat owner themselves, a cat caregiver themselves, is to have some ideas of what they can do themselves to be able to influence their cat state if they do have to stay away from home. Because I think you're right, not everyone is quite as behaviorally savvy as perhaps we are, but and we're always learning all the time, as you mentioned, from our clients and from the cats that stay with us. So a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. So we've got a really beautiful cattery, and we're very, very fortunate to have 2 separate rooms that can essentially be booked for a single cat, if that is what the client would like. So we've got a couple of rooms that, Nora, you've recently turned into like a home from home experience, where you almost walk in and it's like a living area. They are slightly smaller, sort of quieter areas, but they're still pretty big. And it is possible for a single cat to book that entire space and have essentially full access to the room with the sofas and the rugs, and essentially it'd be like a home experience. Chat me through a little bit about your thought process when we were designing the rooms.
So, I think this is hugely client-led again. So it's really down to a few very special cats and clients that inspired this over the years. And I think that we, through knowing more and learning more about cats' behavior and realizing their preference to be solitary in many occasions, have seen cats that are just not coping either in hospital or boarding, and they become very stressed. And I've been very aware that their stress levels go up when there's many other cats around. Perhaps when it's a little bit noisier, they can hear other cats vocalizing. And then removing them from that environment and putting them somewhere quiet has been, almost instant in how much it allows them to be more relaxed and act a little bit more naturally, and even, accept affection from us and that. So I guess it began with us just finding rooms here and there, even consult rooms where we're able to put a cat on their own and then watch them thrive. And we knew we really needed to have that as a set thing. So of these 2 rooms, they're called like the quiet rooms. And they're essentially always quiet, as in there's a very minimal. So there's like a maximum of 4 cats in the room, as opposed to the 15 in the big room. And it would be, it's a place where, you know, shy or older cats, or any cat that's shown a preference not to be in a busy environment, or their owners might prefer to secure a spot. However, they can also be transformed so that it can be booked out just for the 1 cat. Which is really nice, and it's really important for some cats. I can think of 3 cats offhand that board with us regularly that absolutely need that. So I suppose it was really for them and for other cats like them in the future that come. And the home kind of feel environment is to let them feel like they're at home. I mean, I guess it's almost like a studio apartment, you know, or somebody's living room over there. It's natural items that they would find at home that perhaps give them that sense of comfort and familiarity, as opposed to a more clinical, you know, cold, sterile environment. It's very warm and feels sort of safe over there. And I think that, and again, like the intention of that, of the items that have been chosen to be there, it just gives a more relaxing feeling, which is very important for the cats, but also for the owners. I think, obviously, we're speaking about feline behavior today, but I do think it's all, the cats always come with an owner, of course, and for owners who are leaving their cats, it's really important that they're able to relax in that room with them, have a prolonged check-in or check-out if they need to, and make sure things are just so. So it's also equally nice for the owners to feel relaxed during what is a stressful time for them.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And yeah, I think, you know, making sure that everyone feels comfortable, because the last thing you want is for the owners to be leaving their cats and then not enjoying their holiday because they're worried about their cats. So it's providing that kind of all-round experience. So, which brings me a little bit to air travel. So you mentioned at the beginning that these have been questions that have been a bit more frequent this summer. Is it a good idea to take my cat with me for the summer and then bring them back again? And yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I have this both with dog owners as well as cat owners. I know we both have these conversations, and it's interesting in that, I guess, we probably have like an overarching thought around it, especially for cats, that for many cats that might not be the best thing, because we know that air travel is stressful, and displacing them from their territory and then them having to kind of reestablish a new territory and then come back again can be quite stressful. But I can think of some individual instances where actually that might be an option. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as, you know, I say cats are so solitary and their environment is super important for them to keep them at home, cats are also extremely resilient. And I think that definitely there are some cats that we've seen that have traveled and have done very well, and, you know, are quite happy. We had a cat for years who would come and go with their sibling dog to, I think it was Austria, during the summer, and absolutely loved her life. And really, when she came back, was quite relaxed, and the owners had a very good system for how to get her acclimatized again. And that was a choice for them as a family, that, you know, their closeness and them being able to personally take care of her during that time outweighed other things. And so then that's something, yeah, I think it could definitely work for certain individuals. I think it's important probably to get the right protocol ahead of time with how you're going to prepare them for travel, to make sure everything is set up and waiting for them on the other side, that in a way that's going to allow them to be able to settle in as easily as possible. And I do think that's probably where, yeah, consulting with a feline behaviorist or a veterinarian who can help them make those choices that will help with air travel is really important. But definitely we have a few resilient traveling cats that would do well with it.
I'm also thinking about some of the cats that are highly, highly, highly bonded to their people, right? I think, again, we think about that a lot in dogs, you know, many dogs that might have perhaps even separation anxiety. For those dogs, potentially traveling would be better than staying away and being separated from their people. And I think, you know, there are some cats that are a little bit similar. It's not as common, but I can think of a couple where, they are so highly bonded to their person that being separated for a period of time would be quite stressful. So I think that's something else to think about. And then, like with everything in behavior, there's never a one size fits all answer for everybody. I think, we do know so much more about feline behavior in general, but it always comes down to the consultation with the individual and how that all looks. So I think that's really important. And then the final point that I just wanted to touch on was, we spoke a little bit about medical boarding. So cats that come to us and stay with us whilst their owners travel because they have a chronic health issue, whether that is diabetes, for example, or chronic kidney disease. Those are the two that kind of always spring to mind. But there is a way of providing a hybrid service. So for people who want to keep their cats in the home but still want to have that veterinary care, we do provide a service whereby we have a nurse go to the home every other day, or sometimes even every day, to make sure that the medical care is being provided. Do you want to just quickly chat through that and how that works?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is something that's probably accessible in many places. I think that as a pet owner, sometimes just a matter of asking. I think a lot of the services that we have are because there was a need and there was a request for it. So if you're not in Abu Dhabi and you're somewhere else, definitely it's worth reaching out to veterinary clinics. But we do offer, it's not pet sitting, but basically it is medical checkups while owners are away. So here in the UAE, a lot of households will have a nanny or a maid who's employed by them, and they are more than capable to look after the cat when the owners are away. However, if they have a chronic illness and the owners want to make sure that they are doing well with their medications, that they are, stable with their weight, that they're doing well with whatever the condition they have is, then we organize nurse home visits or vet home visits, depending on the case, but where it can be very frequently, like a daily or every other day check-in, where we can administer medications. We can just give a full checkup while we're there. We can also help speak to or train with medication administration for the caregiver. One case that we have currently going on is a beautiful kitty who has a chronic kidney disease. And she has very, very dedicated owners who give her subcutaneous fluids every other day at home. And they were going to be away for a full month. This is the second time. And obviously they're quite concerned that she won't be getting fluids. And then that could be something that could, she could end up having a bit of a health crisis if she wasn't receiving that. So we're able to organize that our nurses go every 48 hours to her house. She does have a caregiver staying there with her, but our nurses obviously are very well versed with giving subcut fluids. So they go to the home, they give her subcut fluids, and then they come back here to work. So every 2 days they're able to do that. And that just gives the owners that peace of mind that for sure she's getting the treatment that she needs.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I love being able to offer those types of services. And again, I think we're very lucky in that we have such a lot of flexibility and we're able to kind of tailor these plans for individual clients. And I think that's probably where I want to kind of leave this conversation, is by saying, just reiterating that I think we have so many choices. I think this conversation, even for myself, I'm like, oh yeah, like there are so many different choices and so many ways in which we can make things happen, or in which things can work depending on where in the world you are, whether that is your cat staying at home and having regular checkups if necessary, or a way in which you can create a home away from home, even in a boarding facility or a cattery, or whether you choose to take your cat with you when you travel. Like, there are so many different options. And at the end of the day, I think that the main message that I want to kind of put out there is, yes, we do know feline behavior, and I think we need to absolutely respect that and be mindful of it. But it's, I think, a framework within which we can find a lot of different solutions that are going to cater to everybody's individual needs and preferences and what fits in with their lifestyles. So yeah, actually, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Sometimes it's interesting to just like deep dive on a topic and think about all the different ways in which things can be managed and can be done, always while putting natural behaviors first. So the final thing I just want to quickly say is, if you're listening to this and you really would like to learn more about feline behavior, I have a couple of amazing options for you. I have an hour-long masterclass on feline behavior, which kind of goes through some of the basics of cat behavior and then talks in detail about the 5 pillars of a healthy environment. So if you want to provide the absolute best environment for your cat, I would highly recommend you check out this webinar masterclass. So it is, like I say, about an hour long. It costs $27. So it's very, very affordable. And I will put the link to that in the show notes. And if you want to learn even more, then I also have an amazing course called Learn to Speak Cat. And if you were to go ahead with the masterclass, you can actually upgrade to Learn to Speak Cat from there. So if you listen to the masterclass and you kind of fall in love with it a little bit and you want to learn more about feline behavior, you can upgrade to Learn to Speak Cat and you get the money back that you spent on the masterclass. So yeah, if you're interested, check it out. I will put both links in the show notes. And we currently have a summer special 50% discount offer on Learn to Speak Cat, which you can also use even if you upgrade from the masterclass to Learn to Speak Cat. So I will put that in the show notes as well. The discount code is SUMMER50, so SUMMER50, and you will get a 50% discount on Learn to Speak Cat. And then you have that option of the masterclass and the ability to upgrade. So that's everything from us. I just want to say thank you so much, Nora, to you for chatting about cats. I know we could always talk like for hours about cats, but actually it's been so cool, like I said, to deep dive on this one particular topic, because it's actually incredible how much opens up around that, right?
Definitely. And I was just thinking when you were speaking about the masterclass and the course, those would be ideal to give to caretakers. So I'm not sure how it works if somebody purchases it, if you're able to share it, or if that is an option, you can purchase it for somebody else. But if you're an owner who knows your cat very well and has done this course and has found it beneficial, that would be a great gift or part of a package if you are employing somebody to look after your cats when you're away.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. And yeah, absolutely. That is 100% a possibility. Amazing. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening today. Thanks, Nora, for joining me for this lovely conversation. And I hope you all have a wonderful summer. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week for episode 90. Bye for now.